guys. So in this lesson I wanted to give you some sort of tips and ideas about how to improvise over a jazz song. So firstly, improvising is essentially combining scales, riffs and passing notes. So for example, scales, if you're just playing a standard C blues, you can play the C blues scale. You can play a few licks that you know. And then some passing notes. To connect the two. So you play a little bit of the scale, passing notes, the riff, a few more passing notes, back to the scale. Now that's nice and simple, at least in theory. But another thing you can do when you're improvising, and another thing that's really good to do, especially with jazz songs, is improvising around the melody. So then you're using scales, riffs, passing notes, and the melody. So the best way I can explain this to you is by using an example, and let's use Fly Me to the Moon. So the melody goes like this. So that's the melody there, and what you can do is improvise in and around that melody so that you still have a little bit of sort of resemblance, a bit of an echo of the melody, but you are improvising. So something like this. So you hear the melody in there, but only just before I do other things with passing notes and scales and maybe a couple of riffs. So the way to practice this is to take the melody and to keep the same rhythm but change the notes. So for example, so I was keeping that same sort of rhythm, bum 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 ba bum, but changing up the notes, bum 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 ba bum. The other way you can do it is by keeping the same notes, so the same melody, but changing the rhythm. So or something like that. So that's the way you practice it up, and then you sort of mix and match it till you get something that sounds cool. So something along those lines. Another simple idea you can employ is by putting in fills. So anytime there's a long sustained note or even long rests in the melody, you can throw in a little bit of an improvisation, or what's called a fill. So in Fly Me to the Moon, we sit on this note here, the E, for a full bar, before going back to the melody. So instead of sitting there for a full bar, you can throw in sort of a little bit of an improvisation. So something like this. Or something along those lines. So anytime you have a long rest for a full bar or even more, or a long sustained note for a full bar or more, throw in a little bit of an improvisation in place of that sort of rest or sustained note, and then go straight back into the melody. Cool, so that's the only sort of little improvising tips I wanted to give you. So make sure when you're learning a new song, you learn the melody and then slowly start embellishing the melody and making it a little bit more complex, throwing in some extra notes here or there, changing up the rhythm here or there, and eventually it'll become an improvisation, and a great sounding one as well, because you've still got all that, like that echo of the melody still in there, and it'll sound absolutely professional and fantastic. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next lesson. Feel free to leave any comments or questions. See ya.